What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Sean O'Malley knocks out Aljamain Sterling, captures UFC gold. In the main event of UFC 292, Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley stepped into the octagon for a massive bantamweight clash in Boston that brought fans to their feet. The contest saw the two men work through the feeling out process in the first round, with Sterling landing a number of leg kicks. In the second round, both men looked to pick up the pace, leading to O'Malley landing a massive right hand that dropped the champ. After following up with a number of strikes, the fight was stopped, with O'Malley capturing UFC gold. Heading into the fight, Sterling made it clear that win or lose, there was a 99% chance he would be making the jump up to 145 pounds going forward in pursuit of two-division champion status. In addition, with his longtime friend and teammate Merab waiting in the wings for his crack at the title, all signs pointed to him making the jump up to featherweight going forward. Following the victory, O'Malley spoke to Joe Rogan inside the octagon, hinting that he would be setting his sights on a bout with Chito Vera next, given his win over Pedro Munoz on the card. Of course, at the same time, Merab sits as the division's #1 contender, with Corey Sandhagen sitting on the verge of a title shot as well. In addition, as the Funk Master revealed after the fight, given that O'Malley was able to land clean on him, he'll be rethinking his move to featherweight. Before exiting the octagon, Sterling stated that fans should not be surprised to see him back in the octagon at 135 pounds, creating quite the dilemma at bantamweight, given that he and Merab have made it clear that they don't want to fight one another. Following the win, who do you want to see O'Malley and Sterling fight next? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Garry batters Neil Magny en route to dominant decision. Leading up to Machado Garry and Neil Magny's short notice UFC 292 fight, tension began to mount throughout the week, with Garry taking offense to comments made by his opponent leading up to the bout. When the two took the octagon on Saturday night, Garry quickly went to work with calf kicks, taking inspiration from Brad Tavares' performance earlier in the night against Chris Weidman by battering the leg of Magny early on. Although it appeared that Garry was going to get the stoppage late in the second round, Magny survived, prompting the Irish star to flip the bird as the two men went back to their corners. In the third round, it was all Garry as he battered Magny's leg while picking apart the winningest welterweight in promotional history. Following the dominant performance from Garry against the number 11 ranked contender, his hand was raised, continuing his unbeaten streak and cementing his place as a true contender in the division. As Garry quickly stated in the wake of the fight, he now wants to test himself against the likes of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who recently had his UFC 291 bout against Michel Pereira canceled. Should the two men wind up clashing inside the octagon, who do you think gets the job done? Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler update. Former two-division UFC champion Conor McGregor recently indicated that he would be making his highly anticipated return to the octagon at the end of the year to compete against Michael Chandler. Given that fans have been waiting for official news regarding McGregor's return for months now, the hope is that a bout on the targeted UFC 296 date winds up coming to fruition. Leading up to Saturday's UFC 292 event, Michael Chandler gave his thoughts on the latest comments from McGregor while speaking to media members.
Obviously we heard Conor last weekend talking about, toward the end of the year, obviously. I'm ready for that tomorrow. I'm ready for the end of the year, whenever it is. But ultimately, whenever it happens, it's going to happen at the exact right time. And I want, just like I said in my post-fight speech, I want the biggest, baddest, best Conor we've seen in a very long time. 170, 155, 185, whatever weight class we want to do it.
While it sounds as though McGregor and Chandler are both ready and willing to fight at the end of the year, UFC President Dana White indicated in an interview with the Daily Wire that the fight is being targeted for early next year.
We're working on it, man.
Yeah?
Obviously, we're running this whole season of The Ultimate Fighter. To not do that fight would be ridiculous, but we're working on it. I'm hoping we can do it early next year.
The targeted early 2024 date has many fans suspecting a potential UFC 300 clash, which would ideally give McGregor a full 6 months in the USADA testing pool. Leading up to UFC 292 on Saturday, the champ took aim at Chandler via Twitter, writing, "Chandler, I'm gonna break your head," before then following it up with another tweet, which read, "I'm gonna come back and fly through the air." With it seemingly being just a matter of time before the fight winds up getting finalized, we want to hear from you. Who do you think winds up getting the job done when Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler step into the octagon? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. UFC fight updates. It's been a busy week in MMA. Without further ado, let's dive in and take a look at the latest UFC fight updates. First up, we have unfortunate news regarding Cody Durden's UFC Vegas 79 fight with Bruno Silva. As the result of not being medically cleared, Durden has been forced out of the fight. So far, there's been no word on whether or not the promotion will wind up being able to find a replacement opponent for Silva in time for the September 23rd event. Next up, we have 3 fights added to the recently announced UFC Sao Paulo card on November 4th. A welterweight bout between Eliseo Zaleski and Rinat Fagretinov has been reported, which will see Zaleski look to build on a 2-fight win streak that recently saw him defeat Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov in June. On the flip side, Fakhreddin will look to continue his winning ways inside the octagon after rattling off 3 straight wins since joining the promotion. The card will also play host to a women's strawweight fight between Angela Hill and Denise Gomez, with Hill looking to pick up a much-needed win after going 2-3 in her last 5. On the flip side, Gomez will be looking to build on a 2-fight win streak that saw her pick up wins in April and July of this year. Last but certainly not least, we have a middleweight bout between Rodolfo Vieira and Armen Petrosyan, which will see Vieira look to bounce back from a decision loss to Chris Curtis back in June. On the flip side, Petrosyan will be looking to build on the 2-fight win streak that most recently saw him pick up a win over Christian Leroy Duncan in June. Drop your thoughts and predictions on these recently announced bouts below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Belal Muhammad sounds off on Covington-Jones drama. Recently, welterweight #1 contender Colby Covington alleged that Jon Jones has been maneuvering behind the scenes to prevent him from appearing on the UFC 295 card alongside him. Although Jones and the UFC have not weighed in on the situation, it sounds as though the fight between Covington and Leon Edwards will not be taking place in November as many have hoped. With a bout between Covington and Edwards now in question for the targeted November 11th date, top-ranked contender Belal Muhammad believes all of this is a sign that he and Leon Edwards should be fighting for the title in November instead. During a recent interview with the Schmo, Bully B gave his thoughts on the situation, defending Jones's right to keep Covington off his card if he wants to.
I think that he understands, he knows that he doesn't want to weasel like that on his card, and he earned it. Like, Jon Jones could pick whoever he wants on his card. Why would you want a freaking clown like that on your card? I think that he's a heavyweight champion, a heavyweight GOAT, and I think that he wants Bully B on his card. So me and Leon, co-main event, who wouldn't want that?
Of course, without Jones or the UFC speaking on the matter, there's no way of knowing whether or not the rumors are in fact true. From the looks of things, the UFC has no interest in passing over Covington for a welterweight title shot. And as a result, it seems likely that Muhammad will have to wait until after whenever it is that Covington and Edwards finally meet inside the octagon. Zhang Weili dominates Amanda Lemos in successful title defense. In the co-main event of UFC 292, Zhang Weili put her title on the line against #5 ranked contender Amanda Lemos. Quickly, Zhang showcased a dominant grappling game plan, repeatedly taking Lemos down, advancing position, and landing big strikes. Although the challenger locked up several submissions that briefly looked to threaten the champ, the fight was an incredibly dominant one for Zhang Weili, who'd continued to pour on the pressure as the fight progressed despite having a massive lead on the scorecards. In the start of the 5th round, the champion rocked the challenger, sending her to the canvas, where she followed up with a flurry of strikes that nearly signaled the end of the bout. Despite that, Lemos survived, fighting her way to the final bell, where she lost a decision on the judges' scorecards. After the fight, it sounds as though the hope among fans is that the UFC books a clash between Zhang Weili and Yang Xiaonan in China. At the same time, there's talk of Tatiana Suarez getting the next crack at the belt as well, giving the UFC plenty of options going forward. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have Joe Rogan calling out the UFC to ban weight cutting and add more weight classes on a recent podcast episode. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, that was the way the fighters always recuperated. They always took IVs. And then USADA came along, and apparently you can use the IV to mask performance-enhancing drugs. So that's why they outlawed it.
Yeah.
I think the weight cutting in MMA they should ban it. And I don't know how they could do it, but
y'all need more weight classes.
That's the problem.
When you talking about lightweight, and then you're going from, what is it, 155?
155 to 170.
Yeah, 155 to 170.
Giant jump. How about 185 to 205?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like,
yeah,
man, we got to, because
yeah,
we damn sure can't go up there.
Yeah.
Do you agree with Joe Rogan? Is it too dangerous cutting all that weight and then adding it back on the day before the fight? How would fighters perform if they didn't have to cut weight? Let us know in the comments below. Top comments. That Conor voicemail was hilarious. Aljo was cocky and got caught. He said so himself. I didn't think he was that good. He underestimated Suge. Man, I didn't give O'Malley much of a chance. He called Aljo so clean. If you want to be featured on our next video, make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to check out yesterday's video in case you missed it.